How do we discipline our kids naturally for life?
With a switch.
Right.
No.
No, we're not talking about beating our children or punishing our children. Discipline has a different definition. So stay tuned for 6 tips on how to make natural consequences work and how to best prepare your child for love and life.
Mama says namaste.
Mama says namaste.
Making a family can be easy and fun.
Oh, yeah, but raising a family can be a whole different story.
From spouses to kids to the crazy daily grind, life often directs us away from connection and more into reactive chaos.
If you're tired of that cycle and are seeking something beyond the picket fence blues, this is the show for you.
I'm Ashley.
And I'm Nathan.
And we're here to take you from chaos to clarity by bringing awareness and intention into your home, not waiting for one day, and highlighting how
the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us.
Take a deep breath in and let's start a brand new day. With Mama says namaste.
Last week, I had a special guest, Kimball Lewis, on from Empowering Parents, and we talked about how to handle when your child is lying. And as I was kind of going through the notes and creating the blog post that went along with last week's podcast episode, I stumbled on another article under Empowering Parents that was how to give kids consequences that work. And I love the list and what all was laid out. And he goes really in depth with kind of what to do when your children say, well, I don't care and I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And
all
they
of
will.
That.
Yeah.
They will. And I mean, there were some great tips in here and some stuff we have done and some stuff that we've added to our repertoire.
Yeah, things that we have learned from Empowering Parents. So we thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of bring this back up again. We have a complimentary blog post this week, so it covers a lot that we're not going to be covering in the podcast. So be sure to hop over to Mama Says Namaste and check out the latest post, and you will see the blog post that goes along with it. And on the podcast, we wanted to actually take the 6 tips that we pulled from Empowering Parents that we wanted to share with you with kind of our personal take and examples. So, number 1 is talking about using consequences, not punishment. So a consequence will help us to modify a behavior. We aren't looking at just punishing somebody for what they did wrong.
I was going to say, definition, Google.
Yeah. Yeah, if we look at what a consequence is versus a punishment, I mean, we raise our kids with the mantra that every action has a consequence. That doesn't have to be a negative thing. It's not you do this or else or a threat or anything. Every action has a consequence.
You put a worm on a hook, you might catch a fish.
Right. If you
punch your sister, she might punch you back.
She might punch you back. Yeah. Or if you spread love and gratitude, you may get love and gratitude back. I mean,
if you
every
complain
action,
and point fingers, people might point you out as the problem.
Right. Right. So we want to have our children understand that consequences are simply the next step of what we have sown. Whatever we are putting into any situation, we're going to have an effect that's going to happen.
And we try to make sure that consequences aren't a negative thing. They show you what's going on with your boat. Like I read a great book. I can't remember who it was from, but he was really obsessed about a keel and how the boat runs, and so you can tell what's going on with the boat by looking at its wake and what's going on with the water around it that is moving in. And so that's all these are, just opportunities to look at your wake. Mm-hmm. And are you happy with the wake that you're creating, or do you need to slow down? Do you need to speed up? Do you need to act more? Do you need to act less? It's just figuring out what is that right wake.
Right. Yeah, even in the article, it says a consequence is something that follows naturally from a person's action, inaction, or a poor decision. Or I would say a good decision. A consequence is intended to teach or modify behavior in a positive way. It differs from a punishment in that a punishment is retribution. A punishment gets back at someone for something they did with the goal of hurting that person. So, I mean, it is definitely tempting at times to just punish our kids. I mean, it's us being pushed to our max, us getting, mad about
because
it.
a kid pushes you to the max, and then it's like,
Yeah.
and you live here for free.
Yeah.
All right. No, hold on. I signed up for this. I can figure this out. There's some solutions here.
Right. So let's look at some solutions and some of the ways we've done this. Okay. So, for example, a natural consequence versus a punishment. We had a situation like that happen with our youngest, who was so excited about getting her ears pierced. And we had decided that we were going to do this for her birthday.
And it was an all-day event, too. Is it 5 o'clock yet? No, honey. It's 8 a.m.
Yeah.
We got a long ways to go. And so she was stoked about this.
She was. And I mean, I'd given her all day to prepare and told her, she wanted to dress up for it. She was so excited.
Now,
she did
let's
everything.
give some past history on this sweet youngest child of ours.
Yes.
This is also a child who we are all loaded up in the car, loaded for bear. We are going to the grocery store to run our errands and then spend the day doing something. And we get to the grocery store and, oops, someone doesn't have shoes.
Yeah.
Or, it's plain to see that it's freezing cold outside, and we all get in the car, and somebody's got a T-shirt on. Everybody else is wearing coats. And we say, something's wrong here. What are we going to fix?
Or, I have to pee desperately 5 minutes after we've left the house.
Right.
So we know that in our children's excitement, they oftentimes forget things. And, I mean, let's face it. I was going to say we're completely guilty of this. Both of us have been guilty of being the ones that forgot our stinking shoes. How do we adults do this?
Well, I don't know. I've ever done.
We don't wear shoes very often.
Whatever.
I swear you have. I know I have. Anyway, this was a situation where we've been down this road before. We know how to be prepared. We've worked with our children on being prepared. And here was a wonderful day she was super excited about. And we drive the 45 minutes to where we're going to get her ears pierced to then find out sweet missus has no shoes.
No shoes. Dang, Jules. That's a drag. I know you were planning on it, and we were all planning on it. But we can't walk in that door with you barefoot and walk through this mall and go through this place. So we're going to have to postpone it. We'll do it again when we're more prepared.
Yeah. That was a big disappointment, for sure, but a very natural consequence. I mean, there's signs everywhere, no shirt, no shoes, no service, right? So here we have a kiddo that's old enough that needs to have shoes on to be going into public places and stores, and she didn't have them. We didn't say, you're a horrible person, you can't get your ears pierced now. We simply said, okay, well, there's a direct consequence. We've got to go back home to get shoes, and it's too late, so we can't do it today. So we're going to have to take a rain check on you getting your ears pierced. And that was a bummer for her. And as I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know that she's forgotten her shoes since then.
Probably not.
Okay, so moving on. Number 2 is make your consequences task-oriented. What we're talking about right now is natural consequences, because oftentimes what we hear from parents is, I don't know how to punish, or they'll do that, you're grounded for a month, or you can't have your phone ever again. And those things are so long or open-ended, I guess, that it can end up to a point that
dilutes your firepower.
It does. It dilutes your firepower, and people just stop caring. And then it ends up becoming more about the punishment than it is about what's happening. So we advocate for these. Or you
feel like you have to up the ante more and more and more to overcome what you have not been able to hold yourself accountable for.
Right. So making consequences task-oriented is really great, because in this, it allows you to have a quick task for growth and redemption instead of it being something where, it's just, you're so flaky, you're high energy, or something about who they are as a person. It's not their identity. It's not a long-ended thing. It is simply a quick kind of task-focused aspect of it. So our example for this one is more around bedtime.
Bedtime, or if we watch a movie late at night and try to go to bed, sometimes the transition of just chilling out and getting into that bedtime energy that they're always shocked happens after sunset.
Yeah.
I just... it's one of those that it can go really well for a long time, but with kids, the energy, they can feed off of each other. And so the momentum can start to happen, and one night turns into 2, 3, 4 nights. and it becomes kind of out of control. And so one of the things we found helpful is to, kind of have two kinds of bedtime. There's all right, everything is rocking and rolling bedtime, and we have to practice again. We're starting over bedtime. And so when they were really young, we did a 7 to 7 rule to give mommy and daddy just to give us a break. Because if you're not packing in your breaks, you better start doing that as a parent, because it's not going to get any easier. And so it helps to pack in that break. And when you are fried and you're getting angry and frustrated, sometimes the best thing to do is to clear the room and say, all right, everybody to their place. We're going to have a chill night. We're going to have a reading night. We're going to reset. And if this goes well, then we'll try playing a game night tomorrow night. And if that goes well, then we're going to try doing a charades night the next night. And if that goes well, then maybe we'll do a movie after that.
And so we look at what is a specific task that we can give our children that can help them to reset into the behavior we want. And so oftentimes for us at bedtime, we have high energy kiddos. We have 2 kiddos that might get really, really amped up right at bedtime. And it's really difficult to go to bed that way. And so we have done, okay, it's reading time. This is your task. This is how you are going to help your body to wind down. It's journaling. It's sitting in silence. It's let's do a calm. Hey, a clear consequence of the fact that we struggled so much on bedtime last night that you guys were so amped and you couldn't do it. We're going to have you go to bed an hour earlier tonight and give you an hour to sit and settle your body. You can talk through it however you want. And we're going to give you more space to do that by giving you an extra hour where that is your only task, is to focus on settling your body.
And this just helps everybody. I mean, I remember playing tennis, and you'd make your smooth moves, but if you couldn't get over the net, then that was the name of the game. And so sometimes if you lost your swing, just get it over the net. Sometimes you lose your swing as a family, and you have to reset. And just figuring out how to get back to that reset mode and knowing what that baseline is, where, okay, this brings us back to center. Let's go back there and walk back up the hill.
Right. And that brings us to the third one, which is make them time specific. We all kind of have a family joke of when Nathan lost his cool one day in the kitchen.
Yeah, I know. They never let me live this down. Like, no sugar forever.
He was so mad. I don't even remember. I think it was because everybody was so hyped up.
I don't remember.
And he was like, no more sugar, ever.
Again.
And that just isn't going to happen. I mean, we are going to have sugar, and we know that. And the reality is that punishment is a punishment for everyone that is going to be very hard for us to maintain.
Yeah, impossible. I mean, everybody laughed in my face when I made that comment. And,
right.
And they should. But we do that. That's an extreme version, but we all do that. There's no cell phone for a ridiculous amount of time.
You can never have a cell phone.
No more driving. You can't. No more football. Whatever it is.
And then we're taking it away in this open-ended, indefinite aspect or something. So another example, going back to the whole bedtime and TV thing, is the fact that we don't say, okay, clearly you guys are crazy when we watch movies right before bed. We're never going to watch movies before bed again. No. But what we do is we say, okay, we're going to do a family reset for this week for everyone. And we're going to do no TV for the week for all of us, so that we can take a break and look for other ways to use our energy, other ways to connect with each other, and to work on being able to calm our bodies down. And so we try it for a week, and then we talk and we reflect. And I mean, there's 2 aspects of that. There's one, making it time specific. There's 2, there are opportunities where we jump into consequences with our children. We're okay with getting rid of TV for a week. That's okay. We recognize that there's more to life than that for us. So I don't feel like it's a huge slight for us. It's an opportunity for us to stretch ourselves on what's some other ways of winding down, and how can we connect more versus sitting side by side in front of a screen.
And that's where, a lot of times there's these little events that become kind of family glue that we are unwilling to let go of sometimes, but they also create a real negative energy around them. And TV for us can be one of those that if we do that at the end of the day, for some of our kids, it just brings the worst out in us sometimes. And so reminding them, our alternative will be like, okay, we'll watch movies at 2:00 in the afternoon. That's fine. But no television after 5.
And oftentimes that's how we've brought it back in, is we'll do like, okay, let's do no TV for a week. And then we're like, you know what? Today's a rainy day. Let's watch one in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And let's do it now, and we aren't worrying about the bedtime struggle. All right. The next one is 4. Make consequences related to the original behavior. So you're looking for what natural consequences there are. If you have a child that is super amped up from eating too much junk food, their consequence shouldn't be go to bed, especially if they're too amped up. They're probably going to have a really hard time doing that. That's a really hard consequence that doesn't match what it is that got them in this situation and is not giving them an effective tool. If anything, it's making it a bigger struggle of now I have to try to settle my body when my body is already agitated in this high amped up energy moment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes consequences will show up naturally without you having to do a thing. And so we had an example of this when Elle and Jules were little. And so they were, I don't know, they were probably, you know what, they were about 3 and 5, if even, at this point. And Jules was, or Elle being the older sister, was pushing buttons with her younger sister and did something kind of antagonistically. We kind of bumped up against her and kind of brushed up against her hard. And it, you know, it made Juliet mad. And so she's using her body in a little bit of an aggressive way with Juliet. And then she turned around, and before Jules could do anything, you know, Jules was kind of sitting in it. She turned around, and Elle went to go up our steps into our kitchen and completely face planted, like fell up the steps.
Boom.
And she hurt herself. And of course, Juliet's response behind her, this little 3-year-old voice, karma.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've talked about, you know, you reap what you sow. Every action has a consequence. And I mean, here, this little 3-year-old immediately saw that her sister hit her and the universe bit back. and Elle got hurt. Well, at that point, I mean, do I need to come in and do another one on top of that? Do I need to do another consequence for all of this? No, we used it as a learning opportunity. We kind of laughed about how quickly she got a consequence. And, you know, I kissed her boo-boos. We talked about the consequences. She apologized to her sister, and we moved on and let it go. If your child is already getting a natural consequence elsewhere, you know, if for example, they've done something in school and they've already been penalized in school, they've already had something there, be careful about just double dipping over and over again with a whole bunch of consequences for one thing. Recognize the power of grace and redemption and give your child an opportunity for both of those.
Because they also need a place to recover, and you can be that space for them. Where you're saying, yeah, these are natural consequences that happen. You know, if you run around the pool area and you slip and knock your head, boy, it hurts. But that is that's why they have the rule, and that's the space. And so you can choose to abide by it, or you can try to slide by. Number 5 is don't cancel special events as a consequence. We had one of those that came up in our life that was just like, oh my gosh, what do we do? Like, we can't, this can't go unpunished. This is unreal. And so the tendency was, and this was around or close to Christmas.
Yeah. No, it was the night before Christmas.
It was the night before Christmas.
It was Christmas Eve. We're sitting
and all
in
through
our
the
living
house.
room.
Not a Logston was sleeping.
And Mommy and Daddy were crying.
I mean, our 3-year-old, 4-year-old at the time? How old was she? Was she 3 or 4?
She was 3. She had moved to a big girl bed, and we had a brand new baby, and
Yes.
she had, the honeymoon had worn off, and she had decided she is not staying in her bedroom. And we were also, I mean, to be perfectly honest, we were also young parents, and we were trying every tactic known to man. And so we did not have a consistent routine with what we were doing. And that's what ultimately happened. We sat there, and our child had been the worst holy terror that night. And we were still battling with her. So we're sitting there in between battles of bedtime for her, and it was just a battle of wills at this point.
And I'm
her
talking
against us.
3 in the morning long.
Yeah.
This is like a labor.
Yeah, all day, all night long.
All night long, from 8 to 3.
And so we were dealing with all of this, and we're sitting there thinking, you know, we cannot have Santa come the next day.
Yeah,
we can't cancel
we can't
Christmas.
wake up and then say, hoorah, this never happened. Let's
Right.
just have fun and have cinnamon rolls and open gifts.
You know, and some of it is we had to take a step back as parents. We had to be realistic about this. Now these things change. Obviously, when we're talking about dealing with a 15 or 16-year-old as opposed to a 3-year-old, this is going to be a little bit different for what you allow for and what you have grace for. But in this scenario, we had a 3-year-old who just had experienced a brand new baby. So we had Elle in October, and this is December. So we still had a very small baby in the house. Mommy was already acting differently. And now here we are around the holidays when everybody wanted to see the baby. We are going to all kinds of events, and our oldest is an introvert, and she was socialized out. And so what we realized is, as we're sitting there talking about it, well, God, if we cancel Christmas, we're not just canceling Christmas for her. Like, we have every grandparent
everyone
in town. We have all of the uncles in town. We have friends and family we had made all of these plans with. And for us to take her out and remove her was a punishment for everyone. And so in that scenario, we recognized that the biggest person at fault in that was actually us as parents and what we put our kid under, and how we didn't give enough space for her to recharge, and how she was so amped up, partly because of our social needs, because we were the social butterflies bouncing all over, and we didn't fully see and acknowledge what she needed. And so this was a situation where we moved forward and we had Christmas. Now, that when your child is older, it can be, it's your senior prom, it's the 16th birthday party. It's these things that can mean so much to them, that can be such a monumental part of their life. And the whole point of giving a consequence versus a punishment is not to penalize them for forever, but to give them an opportunity for redemption. If you take away a special occasion that's a one-time occasion, or a once-a-year occasion, Christmas gatherings, things like that, you're taking away their ability to be redeemed in this. They have to wait till next Christmas, hope they can find another prom to go to, enjoy their 17th birthday as their 16th birthday. You got to look for these. You have to look at these special occasions as, is this really worth robbing them of that, when the time is going to come and go, and this punishment or this, this error of their ways, whatever it is that they did, maybe they will have learned from it, but they can't go back and relive that day that has passed. So be realistic about it. Like we talked about earlier, when we postponed Juliet's earrings, we didn't say, you're never going to get your ears pierced. We just showed that this is something we're going to postpone, because it was something that was really all about her, and it wasn't a disappointment to everyone else.
And we had told her we were dead serious about shoes. When we get in the car, you got to have shoes. That's just the rule. If you're in the wheels have shoes.
Right. All right. So the sixth one is consequences are about learning. We want to look for consequences being a natural effect of their actions. And if they don't like what that natural effect is, they have the opportunity to learn a new approach.
And this just takes creativity and practice.
Right. So, for example, our young kids that had to touch everything in the store.
Oh, yeah.
What would you do?
I would take them in and I would say, okay, we're going to play a game.
Okay, first, we actually paced this, I think.
Outside.
First, it was Daddy stays outside, Mommy gets to shop alone, which I have to say was awfully delightful.
Oh, yeah. And for Daddy, it was, Daddy, can we go in there?
Yeah. Peering
sure.
Sad little
puppies. We can go in
puppies.
here, but do you know why we can't go in there? Why? Because if you touch something that's breakable, and I know it looks pretty and you don't know, but if you touch it, it makes everybody nervous in there. Now, if we go in there, we can play a game. And this is the only way we'll go in there.
Well, and that's what they earned. Is the next step was that they got the game playing.
Yeah. And then if you we'll see how long we can go in there. We can stay in there as long as you want. But if we touch anything, it's exit the building. And so they're in control.
Yeah.
They're in complete control of the outcome in the wake of their impact, because if they want to stay in there forever and watch Mommy shop, they can. But if they want to touch something, they can do that too. But there's an impact for both responses. And so it helps them feel really easily that they have some control in this world, because that's what you want them to realize, is that this world is not just coming at you with slings and arrows of everybody else that is doing this stuff to you. This is you. You have full control of your response and your impact and the way you move around in this world. And that's the hard part about parenting is in order to do all of these, you have to have full control of your emotional state before you open your mouth. And that's the hardest part. That's when had little kids, we had a pull-up bar. We had to do 10 pull-ups before we walked down the hall just to get the energy out to allow you to come to a place where you were not reacting in the moment.
Right. Right. Another example that was shared by Kimball Lewis when I've talked with him is having your child write a letter. And I love that. I love having a transgression redeemed by a letter because it gives them an opportunity to write, apologize for maybe what they have done and play out another scenario. Looking back, I should have done that. I could have done this differently. I've learned this in this process. So, if you want to have a quick, time-sensitive, quick consequence for an action, maybe, not hitting your sister is write a letter as to, what you have learned, why that's not effective, and how you will treat her next time, and give it to her. Well, I mean, let's think about all of the different things that covers. That's not just giving them an opportunity to sit in their stew and figure out a new solution. It's also giving them that opportunity for redemption. It's giving them an opportunity to connect with whoever it is that they have the transgression with. And it also adds in some reading and writing in there. I think it's a pretty solid approach.
Boom, chickadee.
Yeah.
Now you're homeschooling, unschooling, doing all this stuff.
Exactly. So look through or kind of think about these when you are coming up with the next time your child gets an opportunity for a consequence that may help them to learn another approach. Use consequences, not punishment. Make consequences task-oriented. Make them time-specific. Make them related to the original behavior. Don't cancel a special event as a consequence, and make it about what they can learn so that they have the tools to not repeat this, but to learn and grow beyond it. The more we allow our children these elements of learning and growth and refinement, the better the humans they become, the ones that we actually enjoy being around, and we're not just bracing for what next thing they're going to do, but we actually enjoy hanging with them.
Mm-hmm. Because that can be an amazing relationship that blossoms, and they start to listen to the advice that you give.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing where
the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us.
Namaste.
1, 2, 3. Up with the rising sun, already on the run. Mama says namaste. Life is a tangled mess, and you don't have to stress. Mama says namaste. 'Cause today I will stand up and be all the change that I want to see in this world. Boys and girls, you gotta have to stand up to be free. Namaste in your home. Take a deep breath in and let's start a brand new day. With Mama says namaste.